Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of The Working It with me, your host and coach, Rami Balut. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're in great spirits. I hope you're healthy above all else. Hope life is treating you well. I hope you're doing well these days. Wherever you are, whatever time of day, whatever sort of time it is that you are listening to this, I just hope you find moments for space, for reflection, and some joy and your favorite things in between. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that, sort of like a translation from multiple sayings in multiple different languages. But in English, I'm just going to say it as a analogy perhaps that is newly created, but not so new because it's been in different languages before. And that is keeping your tongue warm. Yes, and that is not because it is a chilly night. No, it is because knowing what we are going to say, how we actually say it, who we are actually saying it to, plays a huge, huge piece in our overall professional and personal development. And keeping our tongue warm really is just a saying that sort of like transcends, I think, a lot of psychological boundaries in a topic of conversation. And so when we think about keeping our tongue warm, it really, really just is ensuring that we truly understand that we are saying what is necessary in a particular conversation. Because oftentimes, when we say more than is actually necessary and required of us to share, we are sharing things that are typically borderline unnecessary at times. And I know many of times, especially my clients will come tell me, Rami, like I said something I perhaps shouldn't have. Was it misconstrued? Could have been misinterpreted? How would people actually take what I said without having perhaps the ability to add the necessary context that establishes intentions? And obviously intentions do matter. And so keeping your tongue warm really is just a reminder for you to really understand, number one, really the power of your tongue, and that words, in fact, do very much matter. Number two, the audience, obviously, in which you are speaking with, has very, very much to do with what it is you are probably deciding on saying and how you are going to be delivering that message. Number three, there's a lot of things on people's minds. And so understanding what's happening in the moment in our current situation may very, very much help a lot of you sort of reconsider how you may deliver particular pieces of information, specifically if they are sensitive in nature to a particular audience. And number four here, I always love to talk about this particular element, and that is around the perception aspect side of things. And so how are you sort of presenting yourself? And how is that actually aligned with the perception you want others to have of you? So if you were going to be putting your tongue out, let's just say, for a stroll in the park or a walk in the park, or perhaps considering whether or not you'd want to make that off the cuff remark, you may want to sort of consider how does that sort of align to the perception you are trying to put out there in a personal and professional setting. And so I think really sort of taking that into consideration when you are considering how and when and what it is you're going to be saying very, very much plays a leading role here. Number five here is sort of like the why, or in many cases, like it could be, hey, why am I saying this? Where is it going to get me? To what end is it sort of going to lead me? And sort of if you don't sort of like put those pieces together in this particular pattern, I think you may be missing out on something, quite key in your conversation. And, the idea here is not to really confuse you in how it is you are, putting yourself out there and what you're actually saying. I don't want you to, think about all these elements, right before you're about to say something, but I want you to seriously take a moment to reflect and consider how it is you are presenting yourself to another and what it is you are actually saying. And oftentimes it really just comes down to understanding that, yes, your words do very much matter, and who it is you are speaking with very, very much matters. And in the context in which you are delivering particular information very much matters. The time of day, the moment in which you deliver that information is exceptionally important. Then overall, how are you actually like delivering the message of your personal branding, like who it is you are? How are you promoting yourself? That's a really, really big deal, and one that should be of the utmost priority. And so when we think about keeping our tongue warm, it doesn't also mean that, if we don't have something nice to say, we don't say it at all. That is not at all what I'm trying to deliver here and trying to convey it as a message here. What I'm trying to say is, like, when we have to deliver a particular message, you may want to rethink how that message is in fact delivered and how it's actually going to land in the long run. You may win a battle, but you may lose the overall war if you're unfortunately in a situation where power and politics are so prevalent that you feel like you're actually in a war. And I know those of you who are listening, there are some of you that may think precisely just that. But if you do think along those lines, well, in very, very many ways, you may want to rethink sort of like how you may win a particular argument, but lose particularly a customer, for example, or a stakeholder, or someone that would have been a champion, a cheerleader, someone that could have been an ambassador to your overall branding, your product, your service, but missed out on an opportunity simply because you may have said something that may have turned that person off. Remember, not everyone knows you. Not everyone really understands you. Not everyone really gets what you're all about, or the intention in which you are all about when you present yourself or promote yourself in a particular way. And so you may want to reconsider sort of, hey, when I'm going to speak, similar to how I am the guardian of my own mind, I should be sort of the guardian to my mouth. What I'm about to say is exceptionally important to some people in this room. There are people in the audience that are going to take what I'm about to say verbatim, and there are people in the audience that may not necessarily take what I'm saying verbatim, but may very much feel the messaging of what it is I'm trying to say. And so whichever way you fall, in whatever vocation or profession you're in, this is something very strong you should consider. So it's kind of like holding your tongue before you take it out of your mouth and you actually say something that you may otherwise regret. Think through how you actually want to engage a particular conversation with a specific outcome that you can feel very proud about in the future. And you may be just, planting a seed about something. You may be pitching a product and a service for a later time. You may be just simply acting out in your overall day-to-day activities and presenting what you normally would present. If you can rethink sort of how you deliver particular information, if you can rethink sort of like how you are supplying and receiving things in a form of conversation, you must then also rethink how it is you're going to deliver particular information that comes right out of your mouth into someone's ears, maybe out the other, or maybe just deep down inside, hitting home right there in the heart. There is a very, very delicate way of delivering information, but there's also a very deliberate way of doing so as well. And so the next time you sort of like find yourself in a situation where, hey, you know what, I want to say something, and I want it to mean well, perhaps you may consider establishing intentions prior to you doing so. And if you've actually said something that you don't think really resonated with someone, perhaps you may want to consider providing context. If you're in a career conversation with your skip level and you're talking through a lot of the work that you're actually doing, you may want to consider not focusing on the efforts that were made, but perhaps the outcome. Or conversely, if your skip level really values the number of hours you put in and the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears you put into something, we'll be very, very deliberate about that then. You may want to consider at minimum thinking through like, hey, if I'm going to deliver this piece of information, how can that actually be taken to work in my favor? And so, whether it's feedback or whether you're actually going through a job interview and you're talking about like a finite amount of time, hey, what am I going to say that I'm truly proud of? What am I all about? What are people going to be learning from me? What can people expect from me if I'm actually on the job and hired? Be very, very deliberate with what it is you're going to say. And if you think about keeping your tongue warm, it may mean that you are very measured in what you're going to say. Some people say to me, Rami, we talk about keeping your tongue warm. This is obviously in my one-on-one coaching, but hey, does that mean that I should say less? Not necessarily, actually. You may say as much as you really want to say, and you actually could say a lot of what you want to say, but you're also very much cognizant and conscious of the fact that you are delivering words in a very deliberate and intentional way. And so it doesn't mean we're speaking less and listening more, although that could be something that you may want to consider. It's typically, good as a universal sort of rule. But here it's more so, hey, you know what? If I'm going to say something, let me just make sure that I'm saying it right, saying the right words to the right people. And I think most importantly here, it's really like what we're actually saying to ourselves. We've got a physical tongue here, but we've also got, a voice right up in here that definitely, speaks to us and can either lift us up or very, very much make us think twice about where we are, what we're doing, who we are, what we represent, et cetera, et cetera. Be kind to yourself. That's probably the minimum I could ask of you. But more importantly, on today's conversation, try to keep your tongue warm. And if you already do, well, maybe keep it a little bit warmer. And if you feel like, you just can't help yourself and you got to say what you need to say, well, at least think right before you're about to unleash your tongue out to the atmosphere and get some oxidization. Think through, hey, how is this going to land? What can I say to these specific people that'll get my point across? How can I sway the audience in my direction, understanding that what I'm about to say may not necessarily land as words, but may land as feelings in my delivery of it. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today. I really, really hope you're doing well. I hope things are turning out better than you expected. I just hope that you're not as stressed as you may thought you would have been around this time. And I hope if you're looking to plan out a summer holiday or summer vacation, that's still in progress. No matter what the circumstances actually are. Remember to take care of yourself. There's only one of you. I can't emphasize that enough. And, here on the Working It, we talk about, working professionals that really pull above their weight but struggle to get ahead every single day. And oftentimes in an economic climate like ours today, may oftentimes find ourselves in situations like this. I just want you to know that, I appreciate you. I know there are people that do appreciate you. You may not necessarily feel as recognized or rewarded as you'd like, but you've got to have a level of conviction that there are better times ahead of us, and that you are the narrator of your own chapter in your own story, in your own book of your personal professional life. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Working It. I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to me, say hello, drop me a note. I always appreciate those. Have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you soon here back at The Working It. Bye for now.